Okay, this is film class, week 7, part 8. Wrapping it up here. Um, and by the way, there's a good gag too about Dorothy's world being very poor, and Oz being fantastically rich. When the wizard crash lands, he explains that he took the job as a wizard and as the Wizard of Oz because jobs are scarce, which of course they are in the world that Dorothy comes from. It's hard to find a job. Um, but by the way, the world Dorothy comes from is the same basic time and place as Night of the Hunter. I think that's important to keep in mind. It's that same kind of like job, like the kids wandering around, hungry, and that's really I think a big part of the world she's from. Um, so, but he kept the balloon so that he could run away at a moment's notice. Like the guy's an idiot. Um, all right, and he's this big con man who talked people into thinking he was a king, and they all believed him. The Munchkins believed him because they're children, basically. Um, and the wizard can't control the balloon, and he flies away. Okay, so we're really at the end here. So the wizard fails, the man fails, and Glinda has to come in and fix it. But interestingly, Glinda does not cast a magic spell to fix it. She doesn't do anything for the three dudes. Because they had their external symbols from the entitled white dude that took the job of king that he wasn't qualified for at all and was a complete conman. But Glinda doesn't do anything for Dorothy. She just tells her, you could always have left. You just had to believe it, and you needed a journey to believe it. So this whole external journey was something to fix something in here so that Dorothy could really believe. After seeing what non-Kansas looks like, you got to be like, oh shit, there's no place like home, and that's why she can return home. And so, on the one hand, a woman fixes it where the man failed. But also, the woman that fixes it isn't really Glinda. It's Dorothy. She had the power in her all along. She had to learn to love home. And by the way, she already did that in Act 1, right? She met with the con man guy by his fire and looked into his crystal ball, and then she was like, I gotta go home. And now she realizes again she's gotta go home. It completely mimics it. And there's a famous, people make fun of this line when she says, "And Scarecrow, I'll miss you most of all." Like, those other guys are standing right there. Like, they must feel really bad. Um, but she says it wasn't a dream. Because they say when she gets back to Kansas, they say it was all a dream. She says, no, it wasn't a dream. It was a place. That's a real important line. Um, it's a very, very important line that it wasn't a dream, it was a place. That's something that's going to come up a lot in David Lynch movies moving forward. These places that feel like dreams, but what if they're not dreams? What if they're actually just another kind of place? And what if movies are like that? Movies aren't real, but that doesn't mean they're meaningless. They're another kind of place. There's a great line at the end of Harry Potter. Not in the book, interestingly, but it's my favorite line in the whole series, and it's only in the last movie. And Harry says to Dumbledore, because he sort of, Harry dies and goes to this heavenly space, and then he says to Dumbledore, like, this isn't real, is it? This is all in my head. And he says, of course it's in your head, Harry. Why should that make it any less real? Like, why are your thoughts less real than the world? Not necessarily. And there's something of that here where she's like, it's not a dream, it was a place. Well, this wasn't just a movie. This was a place for 2 hours where we watched this thing. And it was it was a kind of amazing experience. And she learns that she'll never leave and there's no place like home. And that's the movie. This idea of no place like home, though, I want to kind of close by thinking about it. It's a theme that so many movies have. It's very common. Particularly here thinking of It's a Wonderful Life has the exact same theme where someone wants to leave and they learn the value of home. But if you've ever seen movies, usually, those like Freaky Friday movies where somebody switches bodies with someone else, they're always unhappy with their life. But then when they switch bodies and live in the other person's shoes for a while, they realize it's best to be themselves. Or you have a movie where someone pretends to be something that they're not, and then at the end of the movie, they have to go back to being themselves. It's a really common theme in a lot of movies. The idea that you have to go home, to be comfortable with the home you already have, and to be happy with who you are. And there's all these movies, people either want to go somewhere or they want to change themselves. And then at the end of the movie, they're like, I didn't need to go anywhere. It was good here. I didn't need to change myself. I was always good. Um, it's a lovely theme. It makes people feel better. But there's a dark side to it. I always love it. I love it. You guys know me. I love a good dark side. There's a real dark side to it. The dark side to it is that the idea that home, the idea that home is good. It's a nice theme. Makes you feel good. Just be yourself. You don't need to change. Just love your home. You don't need to go far away to be happy. It's sweet and it's kind and it's nice. It is also incredibly conservative. Um, it's a way of telling people who are in the audience. What does the audience learn from this? Well, maybe it's nice. Maybe they learn to appreciate what they have. But appreciating what you have um, is another way of saying don't change the fucking system. If you're born poor, stay poor. If you're treated like shit, just accept it. If right, that maybe this is as good as it gets. It's a fundamentally conservative project designed to and a lot of people will say, and I'm not one of these guys, but there are people that will say that. Actually, if you know James Hoff in our department, he will 100% say this. If you've taken classes with him, this is like one of his things. There's a bunch of people, like Boyd at Johnstone's like that too. One of my students said Boyd at Johnstone before. But it's fundamentally conservative because it tells you, on the one hand, it's comforting to be told be happy what you have. Most Hallmark movies, Christmas movies, are often about just appreciating what you have, not asking for more. But what some of my more radical colleagues will point out is that it's a way of keeping the population from realizing that like life sucks and it doesn't have to look like this. Like, why should rich people have so much money while poor people are starving? And maybe we should have a fucking revolution. And maybe we don't have to put up with the police department as it currently exists, executing people on the fucking street. And we should live a different way and change things. And maybe wealth shouldn't be so unequally distributed across America. And maybe the healthcare system is actually really fucked up in this country, right? Maybe the political class in this country, maybe the way America is organized isn't really working when 5 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are been chosen by presidents who lost the popular vote. Meaning they didn't even, like, the other person got more votes, but they won because of the electoral college and weird math shit, and now they get to pick 5 out of the 9 Supreme Court justices. So a lot of people are like, we gotta fucking have a revolution and change the world that we live in. We have to live a different way and change it. Well, what some people will tell you is that movies that tell you there's no place like home, all you have to do is be yourself, is a way of making sure audience members stay calm and don't start a fucking revolution. It says, things are fine the way they are. Don't change, don't join the rebellion, don't try to change. Just be happy with what you have. And a lot of people feel very suspicious about movies because a lot of movies tell audiences what you have is fine. Don't change yourself. Don't change your place. Because the people that want to change themselves and want to change the place are often people that want to change the world. And they want to change America and have it look like something different. And they want to fight for justice. And maybe they don't think that black people should just accept the way that they're treated in this country as, well, that's just, just be happy with what you have. Seems like a shitty thing to tell descendants of slaves that were kidnapped and tortured. It's for a lot of people, but Hollywood is so beautiful and so mesmerizing and so lovely that you spend a lot of time in Hollywood movies and you have such a good time and it's such an escape from the world. But is it an escape that causes you to change the world? Or is it an escape that spends a lot of time, if you escape to this world, you won't need to change the world. Don't change the world, just escape into a movie theater for a couple of hours. Do it. Maybe you should binge watch something on Netflix instead of going to a protest. Maybe you should watch 22 fucking Marvel movies, instead of, changing the world that you live in and refusing to accept the conditions of it. It's a dark side to these movies. They teach people to be complacent, and they teach people that the status quo is fine. Be happy with what you have. It's a bigger lesson than just The Wizard of Oz. But The Wizard of Oz and It's a Wonderful Life, starring Jimmy Stewart, who you know from Rear Window, and you will learn from Vertigo, are 2 of the most famous movies that tell people to just be happy with what you have. There's a real dark side to that, because maybe you shouldn't be happy with what you have. And maybe there are places that are better than your home, and maybe you should change. And maybe you should... Maybe your home could be better and you could fucking change your home, and maybe you could be fucking better and you can change yourself, and maybe these movies are telling you you're great just the way you are and your home is actually the best place in the world, don't change anything, bye, are actually fucking you up and brainwashing you. Okay, well, this has been The Wizard of Oz. Thank you for joining me. Actually, if you've seen the movie Incredibles, I'm going to make another video about The Incredibles, but if you have not seen the movie Incredibles, you can just stop now and you're done. Okay, for people who like The Incredibles, I'm going to make a quick video, one more, because I'm in a good mood and I feel like still talking. Why? Because I'm fucking crazy.